Naira redesign, Malami turns around, says federal government will obey Supreme Court order. Central Bank of Nigeria tells financial institutions to screen customers for relationship with Abdulrahman Maki, latest addition to the global terror sanction list. International Energy Agency says Nigeria could gain from current crude oil price rally if crude oil theft is kept low. Plus, stock futures around the world trade lower this Friday as investors assess latest earnings reports. This is Business Express on the network service of the NTA. And we are reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Musa Abubakar, your guide. Well, let's begin by telling you the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, yesterday said while the federal government will obey the Supreme Court ruling which puts on hold the Central Bank of Nigeria demonetization policy, the government will take necessary steps to set aside the interim order. The Supreme Court had, in a ruling on Wednesday, suspended the CBN deadline for demonetization policy and fixed February 15th for a hearing on the matter. Malami clarified that the federal government, out of its regard for the rule of law, will abide by the order of the Apex Bank, even though it intended to challenge it, and will do so within the provisions of the law. On Thursday, the CBN had attributed the continued scarcity of new banknotes to hoarding in certain quarters. The Central Bank of Nigeria has instructed banks, financial institutions and other payment service providers to screen their database for entities that have business relationship with Abdulrahman Maki, who has been added to the ISIL and Al-Qaeda sanctions list. He is subject to assets freeze, travel ban and arms embargo, and set out in paragraph 1 of Security Council Resolution 2610/2021 of the United Nations. The CBN, in a circular titled Changes to the ISIL and Al-Qaeda Sanctions List and to the United Nations Security Council Consolidated List, said the action was in line with the provisions of Section 6 of the CBN Regulations 2022 and Sections 4 and 3 of the CBN Guidelines on Targeted Financial Sanctions Related to Terrorism and Terrorism Finance in 2022. The statement signed by Harry Audu for the Director of Financial Policy and Regulation Department of the CBN asked the financial entities in Nigeria to screen their customer database for business relationship with Maki and file a report to the NFIU and update their sanctions screener list to reflect the recent changes. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee on Naira Redesign and Swap Policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria has interfaced with the representative of the National Security Advisor to look at some issues as it relates to national security and the policy. National Assembly correspondent Abdullahi Aminu reports that the sit-in, which is second, followed its mandate given by the National Assembly to follow up on the policy. The discussion also reviews security situation and the conduct of the forthcoming 2023 general elections.
One of the main issues that the NSA really has been talking about, it's important that this committee sits down and articulate better ways of actually addressing these issues.
We will expect you to let the committee know what you guys are into,
the level of your preparedness in terms of being proactive as to how this policy will not be able to affect some of your mandates, statutory mandate?
As the scarcity of both old and the new Naira notes intensifies across the country, reports say the cash crunch has forced traders across the country to slash prices of their goods, especially in rural areas. As Nigerians anticipate a relief in the coming weeks, Business Express is looking at how the cash crunch is affecting prices and inflation in general. Our guest is Chief Economist, ARC Economics and Data, Simon Galadima, who joins us from Lagos. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Good afternoon, Nigerians.
Okay, a very good afternoon. How is Lagos?
Lagos is fine. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, now to the conversation, it will seem one of the objectives of the cashless policy of the CBN is working as prices are beginning to crash. What do you think? And can you give us a picture of the situation?
Well, the Central Bank of Nigeria, which is the monetary authority in charge of monetary policy in Nigeria, has always been pushing for cashless policy for the financial system or the entire banking system to be digitalized. And there is nobility in doing that, because if you do that, you find a lot of illicit activities, including counterfeiting, including money laundering, vote buying, and so on and so forth. And more importantly, or most importantly, this policy will help the monetary authority to be more effective in managing monetary policy. So it's a good thing, it's a good policy, and nobody is questioning the determination of the central bank to ensure that cashless policy is deepened, is more entrenched. But what people are saying is where the problem is about the implementation of this policy. I think it is being rushed, and as a result, so many things are happening that shouldn't be happening. It has visited untold hardships on Nigerians. Imagine people around the country struggling to access their hard-earned money.
Okay.
You cannot withdraw. The ATMs are not dispensing. The POS keep giving error messages. I was in the bank. I went to report because I wanted to buy, and even though I was debited, the person concerned was not credited. It's almost 3 weeks. It has not been reversed. So many things have gone outright. So many things. People are suffering because of the policy. I think it was not given enough time. They should have started it way earlier if they were targeting these elections. And now that they have started late and things are not going the right way, I think they should have rethought it. It's not too late to retrace their steps, because Nigerians are suffering. Even people importing and exporting, they find it difficult to pay duties at the ports, and their products are there. So it's so sad. The economy is in a shambles because of this policy. So okay. I think what makes you smart is that if something is not going right, you try to make some concessions. And you don't blame people that are supporting the judgment or the injunction handed down by the Supreme Court that it should be delayed. But I know it's an interim thing. By the 15th, they are supposed to approach the court, both parties concerned, the plaintiffs and the people concerned. But sincerely speaking, Nigerians are really suffering. And sincerely speaking, the implementation is not giving us the results that we want.
Okay, initially, one of the intentions of the central bank is that this policy will help check inflation. You understand? And we are seeing the price of grains crashing at the grassroots. So just what do you make of that?
I have read pieces of news like that particularly in rural areas, the prices of perishable goods are crashing by, I've seen cases where prices crash by as much as 70%. And even for goods that are not perishable, like grains and other items, their prices are coming down. It's not because those people want to sell that way. And I don't think it's the type of price fall that we want to experience in Nigeria. Is really a bad thing because people are compelled to sell, particularly for those people selling perishable goods. People don't have the money to buy, people don't have cash. And if you say, all right, use POS, and some of them don't even have the POS, and bank transfers also are not working. The banking system, the electronic banking system is swamped because there is not enough cash. People are resorting to electronic payments, right, and receipts. So the banking system, I think, has not been fully prepared for this because there are so many people trying to transact on the financial system and it's malfunctioning. So people are compelled, you have a family, you want to sell so that you can take care of your family members, of your loved ones. You're compelled to crash the prices. And for those people with perishable goods, if they don't sell, these things get spoiled. So they are forced to sell. And it's killing their businesses. So it's not actually the right price, fall in price that Nigerians want. It should be as a result of something that is sustainable, not because people are going out of business and people are compelled to sell, even if they're losing 50% of the cost price. It doesn't make sense. So it's not actually a good thing. Nobody should thumb his chest and say prices are falling, inflation is being tackled. This is not tackling inflation. This is killing businesses. So it's not a good thing. It's a negative thing.
Okay, is the problem from our own side the ability to adjust, or you think that the time is not the right time?
I think it's about the timing. The time is too short, and more importantly, I think the central bank is trying to force the system. Currency in circulation, CIC, before this policy, according to the central bank, was in the region of 3 trillion. I think the central bank has come out to say that they have mopped up to 1.9 because they said it was exactly 3.2 trillion currency in circulation. 500 billion was in the banking vaults, right? While 2.7 was actually in the hands of people. And out of that 2.7, they have mopped up 1.9. So they have less than 1 trillion that they have not been returned to the banks. And meanwhile, the new currency, the new naira notes being produced according to Agoda policy, the minting and printing can only produce like 200 billion up to from the time they started to the end of January, 200 billion. When we were talking about 3 trillion, 200 billion cannot do what 3 trillion has been doing. It's not reasonable. And when the deputy governor of central bank went to National Assembly, she said they have ordered 500 million pieces of the currency. Let's take the average because you're talking about 1,000 naira note, 500 naira note, and 200 naira note. 5 million pieces of 500 naira notes is something in the region of 200 billion. 200 billion is not enough to replace 3 trillion. They don't have enough new currency. They may not want to concede, but that's the truth, and it's obvious.
Let me come in. I thought the whole idea is to somehow go cashless, produce some notes, then go cashless,
Yes,
so that we can explore other electronic channels.
True. But are the electronic channels prepared for the number of people? How many people are embarking on electronic transactions before now? A tiny fraction, less than 50% of us, right? Nigeria is merely a cash-based economy. Our informal sector is huge. So you cannot just overnight expect things. You expect everybody to move to electronic payment system. It's not going to work. And even the system itself is not ready for that number of people, for the number of transactions. Banks are closing because people are angry. They're not getting what they want. Things that should work normally are not, those things are not working.
But the accusation is that banks are actually hoarding those, cash. What do you make of it?
I beg to differ. I'm not saying some banks are not hoarding, but what percentage of the money are they hoarding? How many? Let the central bank come out to tell us how much have they produced.
Okay,
They,
but
they,
but
they, they
but
have not
but,
been
but
really
since
saying
the
about it.
cashless policy is like it's coming to stay, how do you see that addressing inflation in the long run?
Yeah, in the long run, there is nothing bad about this policy. If the central bank can give it some time, make sure that the system adapts over time, cashless policy is the best. And ultimately, they'll be able to tackle inflation more effectively because more money will remain within the banking system. And when there is an increase in interest rate, we'll see results fast enough. It's a noble idea what they're pursuing. It's a very good policy. It's an excellent policy. But the way they are going about the implementation, there lies the problem.
Okay, so now on a short run, what would you like to see done so that to see that Nigerians don't go through what they're going through right now?
The truth is we don't have sufficient cash. I know if by pumping more than sufficient cash, that would defeat the objective of the cashless policy. But it can be a temporary measure because what they are trying to do, what they are trying to force down the throats of Nigeria is not working for anybody. I know they feel like they're not targeting ordinary Nigerians, they're targeting the elites with illicit funds, but it's affecting everybody. Everybody is suffering as a result of it. The truth is that this is not working. And if it means I know one of the conditions given by Buhari was that they should print the new Naira note within the country. If our minting and printing doesn't have the capacity to produce the number of currency we need, please, as a temporary measure, we can go abroad and produce some more. Another measure is we have to use the old currency and the new currency side by side. I have a strong feeling that they're targeting these elections. They're targeting vote buying. I know officially they have denied, but I think it's obvious to everybody that they're targeting these elections. So
Okay.
if they are going to allow the side by side old currency and the new currency beyond elections, they may not get what they're looking for when it comes to vote buying. But I think you have to make some concessions. It may not work in these coming elections. They should prepare for the next coming elections because at the end of the day, it's not working. Let's tell ourselves the truth.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much, Simon Galadima. It's been great to have you on the program.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Now, moving on, the National Bureau of Statistics has been churning out various relevant data for economic growth and national development, yet it has not achieved its full potential. This could largely be attributed to service delivery gaps that exist. It is in this consideration that the Bureau is deepening efforts towards achieving effective service delivery in data collection and dissemination.
The need to recognize, to improve on the quality of life of citizens every time we are there to serve them. So citizens today are more aware of their rights. Before Servicom, people will just take anything they are given at the service windows, at organizations, at government offices.
Empower the public officers to be alert to their responsibilities in providing improved, efficient, timely, and transparent services.
There are many things to be done in reform coordination and service delivery because Servicom is part of it, but Servicom is part of anti-corruption agencies. The same thing with EFCC, the same thing with ICPC.
Now, the International Energy Agency, IEA, says amid the current global oil price rally, Nigeria stands the chance to benefit immensely if only it can curtail oil theft to the barest minimum. During the just concluded India Energy Week conference, Fatih Birol, the executive director of the International Energy Agency, said global oil and gas price rally currently being experienced in the first quarter of 2023 is being fueled by a combination of factors. The factors range from the recovery of the Chinese economy to the price cap implementation on Russian oil and gas supplies. The executive director added that the IEA expects that about half of the growth in global oil demand in 2023 will come from China. Now, oil prices edged lower on Friday, but were set for a weekly gain, with the market continuing to seesaw between fears of a recession hitting the United States and hopes for strong fuel demand recovery in China. The world's top oil importer, Brent crude futures declined 35 cents or 0.4% to $84.15 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures slipped 41 cents or 0.5% to $77.65 a barrel. The downturn was partly due to a report on Thursday showing the number of Americans claiming unemployment benefits increased more than expected last week, reigniting recession fears. On that note, let's see the prices of other commodities. And out of currency, Naira gains at official market despite scarcity. Let's see the official exchange rate. Now to equities. Nigerian equities ended the last trading day for the week in a negative territory. At the end of the day's trading, the all-share index appreciated to 54,327.3 from 54,359.9 in the previous session, with market capitalization also dropping to 29.59 trillion naira. A total of 175.66 million shares valued at 5.32 billion naira were traded in 3,563 deals. Stock markets bleed across the globe as investors assess latest earnings reports. Nekaoko has global market update.
Hello and welcome to the Global Market Review. UK preliminary fourth quarter GDP figures on Friday morning revealed that the economy flatlined in the fourth quarter to narrowly avoid recession in line with consensus forecasts. In the equities market, stocks were lower in Europe as investors assessed the economic outlook and the potential for further monetary policy tightening from the US Federal Reserve. Now, the German DAX fell 1.14%, UK's FTSE also depreciated by 0.36%, and the French CAC was down 0.79%. Asian markets also traded lower with the exception of Japan. The Nikkei 225 rose 0.31% to close at 27,670.98. The Shanghai Composite declined 0.3% and Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index sank 2.01% to lead losses in the region. U.S. stock futures also were in red after a batch of disappointing quarterly reports as Wall Street heads for a weekly loss. Futures linked to the Dow Jones Industrial Average also fell 90 points. S&P 500 shed 0.4% and Nasdaq 100 was down 0.96%. In Africa, the story was still the same as nearly all the stocks were on track to end the week with losses. South Africa saw its shares fall by 1.23% in early trade, and Namibia's overall index lost 0.46%, while Ghana's GSE composite declined by 0.4%. And that's Global Market Review. I am Neka Oko.
Well, that's it. That wraps Business Express for now. Remember to send in your comments, observations, and suggestions. Also be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. Join us again next week. I am Musa Abubakar. Have a pleasant day.